Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Tonight is the September 27th Town Board meeting. We're at John Jay High School. Thanks for having us. Would everybody please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So again, good evening. Thanks for joining us. John Jay High School. Tonight we have a large public hearing. That's why we are here. Probably most of us wouldn't be able to fit at our town hall. Thank you to Wapshire Central School District and School Superintendent Jose Carrion for the assistance for having my meeting here tonight. Thank you very much. Couple of comments before we begin. I started out this month with budget meetings. Budgets, that's the main idea right now. It's almost over, so I'm happy about that. The budget is a really tough matter to attend to. I've submitted a budget that does not exceed the New York State tax cap without having to cut any town services. So basically, I have to go through the budget and determine what I think is less important line item than another, really. So I met with all the department heads, or most of the department heads, and they fight for what they believe is important to their budgets, and rightly so, they should. But unfortunately, I had to trim about $650,000 to stay under the tax cap. So I've been working with the comptroller, and not too many meetings, but we did it. Today I submitted the budget to the town clerk, and later tonight I will ask the board to set the public hearing for the tentative budget for October 25th for the budget public hearing, and I'm going to present the town board tonight with the tentative budget. It becomes then the preliminary budget for their review. So we will dedicate the October workshop for the budget discussions. Again, my budget does not exceed the New York State imposed tax cap, but I see, it's tough to do the budgets because we have many problems in our town, crumbling roads. We're needing sorely of new equipment for our highway department, new equipment for our police department, but we also have an obligation to the taxpayer as well. The town has always been very frugal, and it's reflected in our tax rate. To have a town of our size with a first-class full-time police department, and we have more miles of road than any other town in Dutchess County. That's proof enough that we are cost-conscious. So we stretch the dollars best we can. I've submitted a very lean budget to the town board, and I actually stirred some lines around to add an additional $100,000 to our paving budget. This is alarmingly needed. We all know that on the board. We actually, if we could find it, we could use another $1 million for paving, but we don't have that available. So if the board is going to have the budget tonight, if they have any other movement they'd like to see, please contact me, but we'll have many discussions going forward. I had many meetings this month. One was actually with the owners of the Sports Kingdom, the building that's partly built right outside here. I had a very frank conversation with them about what's going on, and they have indicated that they are moving forward, that they're pursuing additional funding. The project will total about $30 million. Originally, it was projected to be about $24 million, so that's been one of their problems, budgeting. They said that they have no plans on selling. They have no plan. They have they're determined to finish this project. Many people said that they were being sold to something else, DHL, FedEx, but that's not true. They're going to finish the project and have the dome, they say. So this is what prompted me to sit down with them is our economic development. Right now, the West Campus has been sold. That's the property that sits right behind the dome. And they had concerns about the status of the dome, whether they were moving forward or not. So I've been in contact with many groups about that project, including the owners of the West Campus. I also had a meeting with the owners of iPark. They have several tenants coming in. One is Sloop Brewery. Maybe some of you have already been there. They opened a beer factory there and a tasting room / restaurant. It's a really large space, really nice space, they say. It's really busy, I hear, and I haven't been there yet, but it's very exciting. A lot of new businesses are coming into iPark, and they said that they have more coming on the way, so that's exciting. I attended the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce Contact Breakfast this month. A great place to go to meet many county, town, state business leaders. Anytime I can make new friends that are going to help our town, I try and meet with them, talk with them, whatever I can. But that day they had, the Chamber hosted New York's 41st Senate District debate between our New York State Senator Sue Serino and her opponent. It was a great debate. They were very respectful to each other. They answered all the questions. It was very well attended. It was pretty exciting. It was nice to attend that. East Fishkill, we celebrated our 23rd annual Community Day on September 15th, this past Saturday. It was a huge success as usual. It was my first Community Day as town supervisor. I was happy to see many friends and neighbors and many of their children march in the parade. It was really nice. Our rec department did a great job. They really are. They're second to none, our rec department. They love Community Day. Our seniors, they had a great time. They love Community Day. They love Bill Green. Just ask them. So big thank yous. They go out to Jan McHugh, Bill Green, Christine Selbach, all the volunteers, the Highway Department, the Police Department, the Community Day Committee, which is made up of Mike Kieser, Richie Neese, Paul Puza, Councilman Marinaro, and of course our Deputy Supervisor and the co-founder for Community Day, Peter Cassidy. Thank you all. Big congratulations goes out to the Town of East Fishkill Spirit of Community Award winner. That's Mr. James Belizzi of Belizzi Jewelers. Mr. Belizzi is a lifelong resident, and he really exemplifies, the selflessness and willingness of why we give that award to. So we are happy that he won it, and we're congratulations to Mr. Belizzi again. This year we also had an amateur photo contest for the first time. 2 categories. First was amateur, which the first place was James Mercer. He did a photo of the Emmendine Pond. Second prize went to Antonia Houston. She did a photo of a ruby-throated hummingbird. It was something. And John Houston took third place, a photo of an American flag flying free on one of our fire trucks. It was really nice. And then we had a youth category. First place was Frankie Selbach. He had a photo of a sunset on Red Wing Lake. It was nice. Second place went to Emily Stoll. She had a photo of peonies. And third place was Zach Earhart. He had a photo of the Van Black House, which was very nice. So congratulations to all those, and thanks to Two Manara Pharmacy, they donated all the prizes for the first ever amateur photo contest. I also attended a senior citizen scam seminar that was hosted by our own State Senator Sue Serino. It was held at the East Fishkill Community Center. They had speakers from the New York State Department there. They gave a huge amount of information to the seniors. Unfortunately, they are always victims of these crimes. And they had an extensive question and answer period. Seniors really loved that. It was a big success. Our Senator Serino, she is the chairwoman of the New York State Aging Committee. So thank you to Sue Serino, our state senator. She's awesome. Also, I attended our monthly mayors and supervisors meeting. This month we had a guest speaker. It was the chairman of Dutchess County Legislature, Greg Pulver. He answered many questions from towns to villages, county issues, but one hot topic that he was discussing this month was about 5 years ago, the county started a shared service for workman's comp, and we didn't want to take part of it. And I guess our hunch was correct because premiums are increasing over 300% this year. So the chairman, unfortunately, had a lot of hot questions, but he answered them well, and then they fielded other questions about some shared services that we are entering into with the villages of Wappingers and Fishkill and the towns of Wappingers and Fishkill and the city of Beacon. We're looking to start shared services of water and sewer. and they had some discussion about that. And we actually had a meeting with them. I did, and the town attorney attended with me this past Monday. It was with the supervisors from Fishkill, Wappingers, Town of Poughkeepsie, Mayor of City of Beacon, and the mayors of the villages of Wappingers and Fishkill. Bob Lacola from Fishkill, he hosted the meeting. We had a great discussion on the expectations of from each of our municipalities and what we're going to try to do to move forward. Pretty much we all agreed that starting with mapping. We have to map where the aquifers are in our general region here. So for the next meeting, we'll be preparing our own water and sewer maps of our own infrastructure for each town and have our own engineering staff there to discuss with the other municipalities on how we could interconnect for the future. But for the beginning, we are going to look for a budget where we would all share costs and mapping of the aquifers, and I'll keep the board posted on that front. On Saturday, I attended the annual Hopewell Depot dinner. It was held at Mill Creek Caterers in Hopewell. It was a nice event. The engineer attended with me. They had a lot of guest speakers. If you haven't visited the Hopewell Depot, please do so. It's really great. It's at the top of the rail trail, and they keep growing, and it's every project they do is more wonderful than the next, and they're all volunteers, 100% volunteers. They're a really great group, so please try and support them. Speaking of groups, I also attended the Wikipedia Firehouse annual steak roast. Definitely one of my favorites, right, Peter? You like to go there?
There was food. You
Yeah.
were.
They do a fantastic job. The food's great. The people's great. It's also 100% volunteer run. Really, they do a top-notch job. So thank you again to the Wikipedia Firehouse and for having such a great event. The deputy supervisor and the town attorney and I, we had a meeting with the East Fishkill Fire District Board of Commissioners, and also Kevin Geisen, the chief of the department, and Frank La Calamita, the first assistant chief, was in attendance. I'd like to thank the commissioners for last month we had our town workshop meeting there, or last meeting, at the fire district headquarters. It was a big success. Everybody was happy how it turned out. A lot of people got to know what the fire district does, what the fire board of commissioners do. A lot of people had questions about that, and it turned out very well. So thank you to them. But this week we discussed a few pressing issues that concerns the town and the fire districts. So it's very important that your town government here supports the fire board of commissioners. Because it is definitely in the entire town's interest to make sure that we can aid them in whatever capacity we can. They're 100% volunteer. They keep our taxes as low as we can. If we have to go to paid emergency services like fire or EMT, it'll be devastating to the taxes. So thank you again to them, and we'll be looking to work with them as close as we can. And we also had a meeting with the highway superintendent, Ken Williams, the town engineer, and I. We met with our local DOT office right off of Lime Kiln Road with Mike Sassy. He's a resident engineer there with his staff. They were very helpful. We met at the building right there that is by the entrance of the I-84 on-ramp there. And unfortunately, that portion of the road right in front of that building, half of Lime Kiln Road, as you know, is the town of East Fishkill, and half the road is Dutchess County's. Well, the part that's right in front of the entrance is unfortunately the town of East Fishkill's, and it's a very wide road there that is in dire need of paving. So we went there asking them how they can help us, how they can assist us, and they were pretty responsive. There were a couple things that they could do, and we tried to map out a little bit of a plan, what we could do. Perhaps in the spring we could do this project. Our highway department did do some patching there this past month, was that correct? And it won't last really much of the winter, but that's why I would hope if we could do it by the end of this season, but we'll have to see how the budget looks by the end of the season. But thank you to Mr. Sassy and his staff. They were very helpful. So with that, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilperson Franco.
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro.
Present.
Councilperson Beepin.
Present.
Supervisor D'Alessandro.
Present. Thank you very much. So tonight, the first order of business is we're going to do the public hearing first. We have just a few comments before we begin. Tonight we have the first public hearing. There's a proposal to have a 9-month moratorium on the development of industrial districts in the town that do not abut Interstate 84. Essentially, what this is, it's a timeout, it's a halt, it's a pause, it's a freeze on the development on the industrial zones in town. This will give the town enough time to conduct a full review of the location and the permitted uses of the industrial zones. We are prepared to hire a consulting planning firm to aid us in this review. So please keep in mind, this public hearing isn't for a specific project. This is for a moratorium on development in industrial zones. So I'd just like to comment that for me, it's very gratifying to see so many citizens come out here. You trumpet your democratic rights, which is great. Me personally, I believe this is how government should work. The people are here to voice their opinions, either for or against something, and we're here to listen to you. So what we're going to do, I have a little rules for this one since it's large. We're going to first hear what you have to say, the public, and then me as the supervisor, I'll enter a motion for the town board to have a vote on this, and then the town board will have their discussion. So we will hear from all the citizens first, and then the town board will speak. And if whoever would like to come speak up to the podium up here, I do have a pad up there. Please, when you get up there, if you could sign in, put your name and your address, and if you could also speak your name and where you live, that would be very helpful. And there are many people here, so we usually don't do this, but if we could keep it to 2 to 3 minutes each so everybody would get a chance, that would be great too. Also, I'd like to mention there are some people in the audience that came, members of the staff from our Senator Sue Serino and our Assemblyman Kieran Lawler's office. Thank you for coming. And I believe the Beekman Town Supervisor, Mary Cavucci, she's here, and our County Legislator Marge Horton's here also. Thank you very much for coming. So if you'd like to start, sir.
Hi, I'm Neil Palladino, and I live on Honeysuckle Court in Starville. I'd like to thank the board for this public forum and providing the opportunity for the residents of the township to speak. While I believe the Stormville Airport issue was the impetus for this meeting, I am glad to hear that it has inspired the review of all industrial zoning in East Fishkill. I'd like to read a letter I wrote and posted on the East Fishkill Community Forum and Stop Copart sites, and I also sent it to the town planning boards. I apologize for the repetition to those who have already read it, but it is brief, and I would like it to be part of the record. Also, I think it's really how I feel, and I think a lot of people feel the same about the current situation. So the letter says, "It is our town. It is where we reside. It's where our families grow up. It is where we share a portion of our income to live here, and that makes us a community. Whether you lived here for 1, 10, 20 years, or anywhere in between or longer, this is our town. We don't always agree. We don't always have the same view, outlook, or vision, not in our township, hamlet, or even in our own neighborhoods. We differ about budgets, traffic, regulations, building, but that's what makes us a town. Eventually, these disputes are settled by vote or the town's governing boards based on the laws agreed upon to protect us as a whole. We won't be here forever. We are stewards. And as stewards, we have responsibilities. But while we are living here, we want to enjoy our time here. It's not a privilege or a right, it's simply our choice. There are times when we ask our community to support each other when someone outside wants to take advantage of us. I don't pretend to have the statistics, but I venture a guess that there are many business owners in East Fishkill who don't live in our township, yet we welcome them with their entrepreneurship, as we should, and we consider them part of our community. They make our town better. But occasionally we face the large corporate entities who want to come here not to be a part of the community, but to take advantage of us for corporate profits. I understand their fiduciary responsibility to their boards and shareholders, but let's be clear and understand that is where their loyalty lies. Not with us, but with them. They want to take advantage of us. We are simply in their way, and they have no concern for us, not you, not me, not the planning, town, or zoning boards, not our local roads, environment, neighboring families' property values, wells, or our quality of life. We are all in their way. But it is our town. I very much appreciate the members of our community who have taken the responsibility of representing us in our local government. I'm sure more often than not it's a thankless job. And yet they continue to represent us and uphold the laws and procedures which have been put in place, not only to protect us, but to allow us to thoughtfully progress as a society, township, hamlets, neighborhoods, and ultimately a community. I ask everybody here to please support them, and let's not forget that they live here too. That's the letter. Just a little add to that, I'd also like to thank the administrators of the East Fishkill Community Forum and Stop Copart sites for providing a platform for information and dialogue. I believe they have been valuable assets for the discussion of industrial zoning in East Fishkill. The rest of what I'd like to say was specifically for Copart, but since we're not doing that, I'll let the next person go.
Thank you. How are you?
How are you? Good evening, Supervisor, members of the board, Councilor Wood. My name is David Leno from the law firm of Rifkin Radler with offices at 2649 South Road in Poughkeepsie. I'm here tonight representing the Carnahan family, who are the owners of the property located at 416 Route 216, Stormville, New York, otherwise known as the Stormville Airport. We are here tonight in opposition to the imposition of a moratorium on the industrial properties that do not butt the I-84 corridor, of which our client's property is one. In advance of tonight's hearing, I provided a letter to the town board, which I believe Council Wood had advised me that was circulated to you. So I don't think you need additional copies now, so thank you for that. As the board may realize, the Carnahans have been negotiating to sell the property for several years. They entered into a contract to sale with a purchaser that is seeking to develop the site for an automobile sales and storage facility, otherwise known as Copart. While the purpose of tonight's hearing, as you clearly expressed, is not to discuss the merits or concerns of the Copart application, the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the moratorium and more specifically the negative impacts we believe it's going to have upon our clients, Mr. and Mrs. Carnahan. Please note that the Carnahans, and it's fitting, the first speaker talked about our town, the Carnahans have been part of this community for generations. The airport has been in their family since 1927. They have worked hard to keep the property running and operated their property as a flea market for almost 50 years now. Tom and Patricia have come to a crossroads. They want to retire, and they're actively looking to sell the property. Therefore, you can understand that as the largest stakeholder in the discussion that you're having tonight with regard to the moratorium, that any decision by this board with regard to the moratorium and the modification of the zoning code will be felt most directly by our client. First, by enacting the moratorium, our client's ability to sell the property, at least for the next 9 months, will be eliminated. No purchaser will want to acquire the property without the ability to submit and process applications for their intended use, and no one would want to enter into a contract to sale without understanding what the rules of engagement will be as far as permitted uses and bulk requirements. Our client will have the obligation of upkeep, taxes, and other expenses on the premises, and no purchaser will discuss terms for acquisition until this matter is resolved. Beyond the continued financial burden, this will also prevent Patricia and Tom from retiring, which is their goal. Secondly, the imposition of a moratorium is a direct response to the Copart application that was submitted by our client's purchaser. Rather than allow the planning board to delve into the issues with regard to the application and invite an open dialogue about potential impacts of the site, the town board has elected to pocket veto the existing application by delaying the process for an additional 9 months in the hopes that the application will go away. If the board chooses to act in approving the moratorium, they are doing so knowing that there's an active application before the town for consideration, and the town's actions will be interfering with our clients' contractual rights and will be interfering with them as a taxpayer in the town of East Fishkill. While the proposed moratorium legislation seeks to protect the environment and notes 2 industrial areas that have been contaminated, have contaminated adjoining residential wells in the past, the imposition of this moratorium does not achieve any environmental goals. Rather, the delaying the discussion about potential environmental impacts will be achieved, and it will be more prudent for the town board to allow its designated process to continue, whether that's through the Planning Board or Board of Appeals, to review the application and take a hard look at the environmental impacts on a case-by-case basis, rather than doing a blanket revision of the zoning code in the hopes that it will get to a positive result. We believe that this moratorium will not be an environmental provision, but rather a stall tactic that will disproportionately impact our client and others that own industrial properties within the town of East Fishkill. While we do acknowledge that moratoriums frequently are implemented to review zoning code provisions and to make sure that your planning is in line with your future growth of the town, the timing of this moratorium is suspicious, to say the least. The town of East Fishkill undertook a master plan back in November of 2002. A review of that master plan indicated that there was a suggestion made that the zoning code provision, especially uses in industrial areas, be reviewed. However, the town did not act on those recommendations for almost 16 years. And now, in light of the application of Copart, there's a belief that it is critical for the town to raise these environmental issues and impose the moratorium. The attempts to make this moratorium anything other than a denial of the Copart application for the purposes of laying the concerns of a vocal minority are transparent at best. Thus, we urge the board to reconsider the petition on the moratorium and to allow our client to continue with the sales process for their premises. In the event the town does elect to impose the moratorium, we request that the proposed legislation be modified with a hardship exemption so that pending applications or those that are in a financially challenging situation based on the imposition of the moratorium will be able to process their application. I believe that this legislation was referred to the County of Dutchess, who recommended the addition of a hardship waiver within the proposed legislation as set forth in their comments and the memo that was included in the packet from September 13th, 2018. This would be, with the imposition of a hardship application, this would be consistent with the town's stated position to review the environmental impacts in the industrial zones without disproportionately impacting a specific parcel subject to a pending application. By not allowing the already submitted application to continue, you are depriving all sides of the process and the right to have their voices heard. It's not fair for anyone involved to try to change the rules that govern the process in this town when the process has not been able to see itself through its normal and legal course. The mention of a timeout is justified and reasonable, but you can't call timeout in the middle of a play. It's not fair to the players on either side. We are simply asking for our client to have an equal opportunity and access to the process that was set forth by this town prior to the arbitrary and capricious efforts to change the process and stop the conversation. We sincerely hope the board has not come to tonight's meeting with its mind already made up with regard to imposing the moratorium to succumb to public pressure. If it has, the board has made up its mind to harm a lifelong resident of this community for political reasons. We would ask all of the residents present how they would feel if, after generations of their family living and giving to the community, when the time came for them to retire, that the rules that they lived by for decades would be changed, preventing them from selling their land in a deal that was perfectly legal a week ago. Review and deliberation is proper, but the proper forum to do so is the planning board, and this board should not deprive that forum of its ability to approve or deny the pending application. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Please remember when you come up to speak, please sign the sign-in sheet there so we can have an accurate account of who is speaking. And excuse me, and if we can try to keep it to 3 minutes, Mr. Leno, that was over the 3 minutes, but that's okay. And please state your name and your address also, please.
Yes, my name is Gerard McVicker. I live in 101 Brothers Road in Stormville. I'll be much shorter than 3 minutes. So I want to say good evening to the members of the town board and to my fellow residents. Again, my name is Gerard McVicker. I've been a resident with my wife Sheila of the town of East Fishkill for over 21 years, and I've lived in the Fishkill, East Fishkill area for over 52. We bought our property on 101 Brothers Road in 1996 from Pete O'Brien, the then owner of the Stormville Airport. I chose the location because of its pristine beauty and the quality of life. I have worked over the years to raise a family and build up a nest egg for retirement, which includes the equity in my property. I'm sure that most, if not all, of my neighbors have done the same. The reassessment of surrounding property values, which would result from living beside a salvage junkyard, would translate into a reduction of tax income to the town. In addition, the airport's 155 acres would be taxed mainly as open land, even though it would be used as a storage area for Copart's wrecked vehicles. And the tax from Copart's proposed building would not offset the reduction in the tax income. Therefore, the sale of the property to Copart offers no benefit, financial or otherwise, to the town and its residents. Besides the loss of tax revenue, noise pollution, and road safety from trucks and heavy equipment, there is the high probability of water contamination to the bordering flood zone and wetlands. Copart cannot guarantee that the surrounding water table will not be contaminated. The town knows only too well the cost of another Superfund site. The potential risk of water contamination to the health of the surrounding residents and to the threatened wildlife, the Blandine turtle, cannot be measured. Back in 1927, 91 years ago, when the airport was officially designated, zoning laws were virtually non-existent. A special permit was issued at some point for the airport, and the land was classified as light industrial. Those in the town at the time, in my humble opinion, did not foresee the property converting from an airport to some alternative industrial land use. Over time and until today, the surrounding properties have developed into and are zoned for residential property. In conclusion, it is my opinion that the Stormville Airport property be rezoned to allow the owner to sell the property to their benefit and to the benefit of the surrounding residents and the residents of the town at large. I therefore support the moratorium which the town board is proposing. Thank you.
Mark.
My name is Ronald Vogt. I'm at 36 Old Route 52 in Stormville, New York. What I have to say is pertaining to procedurals and things that you would have pertaining to zoning and what you already have on the books. There is no definition for a junkyard in the East Fishkill zoning code book. Since that is the case, the New York State General Municipal Law would cover this. Specifically, General Municipal Law, subsection 136, which is page 147, item number 2, definitions. Term junkyard shall mean any place of storage or deposit, whether in connection with another business or not, where 2 or more unregistered old or second-hand motor vehicles no longer intended or in condition for legal use on public highways are held, whether for the purpose of resale or used parts therefrom, for the purpose of reclaiming reclaiming use some or all of the material therein, whether metal, glass, fabric, or otherwise, for the purpose of disposing of the same or for any other purpose. Such term shall include any place of storage or deposit for such purpose of used parts or waste materials from motor vehicles which taken together equal in bulk 2 or more such vehicles provided. It is my understanding that the proposed application is from a business that is performing this service in other municipalities at this time. It should also be noted that the list of permitted uses in the town of East Fishkill, last amended 6/22 of 2017 by local law number 2 of 2017, page 3, auto wrecking yard or junkyard, clearly shows that the only place in the town of East Fishkill that this use is permitted after being granted a special use permit is in section I-2, heavy industrial. The proposed application is for the old airport property, which is zoned I-1S, light industrial, in which this type of business is not permitted under any circumstances. If the proposed business wants to operate in our municipality, they should try to find a property that is zoned for their type of operation in the I-2 zone. Then they can file the necessary application for the special use permit and follow all environmental reviews for this type of operation. That's all I have to say.
Just please keep in mind that discussion is for the moratorium, not for a specific project or what the zoning code allows or not allows right now. This is for a moratorium on the industrial zones not abutting I-84. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Bartolotti. I had no intentions of speaking today until Mr. Lawyer spoke and my heart rate went to 124. I appreciate that 2 people want to retire. I do appreciate that. But we all need to live, and there's a lot more than 2 people. They can sell their house to somebody else and still retire. If they sell their house to, if they sell their property to Copart, we can never retire. We can't sell our houses. They make our property useless. And I'm sorry this isn't about the moratorium, but you allowed him to do it, so now everybody can do it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Tamulonis. I'm a resident of 182 Jewett Drive. I got nothing prepared and really to go through the technicalities and all the projects. You know about it. I'm going here. I've been living here for the past 5 years. I'm from Long Island. Say what you want about it. But the fact is I came up here. My wife is from up here. She's a lifelong resident of Jewett Drive. I fell in love with her and I fell in love with the place. I have 2 children. My son Luke, 3 years old. My daughter Olivia, 18 months old. I've always envisioned, and I always told my wife, the next time we leave here and we sell the house, it's gonna be 25 years from now, 30 years from now when I'm ready to retire. As the first gentleman said, we are stewards of this town. Everybody up here, me, even the children from John Jay. They're the future, and their kids and their kids. Whatever decisions, and you know you have a very heavy hand and a very heavy task to do, it will impact generations. It is very, very imperative that you do the memoriam. We all know that what it was 50 years ago, even when they built my development 35 years ago, is not what it is now. Jewett Drive didn't even exist then. It was only a fraction of the size. And it's even growing now, even in the last 10 years, even before I came here. You say that it is, we are, as you said earlier, our economy is growing. We want to also make sure that the people here can actually grow, because there will be a place to live. I'm always a very big advocate that there should be a balance. As for the entrepreneurs coming in here, the developers, the residents, but need that healthy relationship, both being fair, balanced, but reasonable. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Of course, I don't have anything written down, so I'm going to do it all from my head. Gary Carpentier, I live at 132 Judith Drive.
Make sure you sign in, please.
Okay. Hold on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Gary Carpentier, 132 Judith Drive, formerly 8 Judith Drive. You're well familiar with that, Nick. I've seen Copart's operation, and I was in their yard in Long Island, personally, because my car a few years ago was involved in an accident, which the car was totaled, and I had to go get parts from the car. Nobody's allowed in the yard, but I got in the yard, and I waited all day for my car to be transported from Brooklyn and the car carrier to pick up other cars. By the time they got out on the LIE and got into the place around 5 o'clock at night. You have your convoy of cars that only a few times a year with Stormville Flea Market that are operational, that have their weekends for all their purveyors. Well, this is 9 hours a day, 6 days a week, of just turn cars into flatbeds and tractor trailers and everything else. And as far as what one of the representatives who I spoke to in Copart, because I've been in the scrapyard business since 1978, and I know a lot about it. I got a friend of mine that owns the biggest scrapyard in Brooklyn, in the 5 boroughs, 5 acres. And he owned it from his grandfather from the 20s. Till today, they cannot sell the property. Walmart walked away from it, BJ's walked away from it, Costco walked away from it. It's contaminated. It's a junkyard. And the yard is concrete. They concreted the whole entire yard, except for the back, the holding area with the cars. They can't sell the property, so now they lease out the property to a continuation of junk yards. So what I'm trying to say here, you got 155 acres over here with Copart looking to obtain with the Stormville Flea Market. Once if this ever goes into operation, that property could never be resold ever again. Nobody's going to buy it. It's condemned. It'll be condemned because it'll be contaminated. I firsthand was in their yard in Long Island, and to be quite frank, excuse my French, everybody, but it was a shit house. There's no pans put on the cars. There was oil all over the place. Cars were wrecked. Cars were leaking all over the place, and they had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars. So just think what you could do with 155 acres of what you're going to have. You're going to have rain runoff. You're going to have problems with the well. You're going to have people, everybody here will have problems with the Board of Health if they go to sell their house. I mean, you're going to have infrastructural problems, road problems. They don't care about the community. Neither does the seller care about the community. You know, you would expect something like this from a guy or a couple coming up from the city, making an investment, making a fast purchase and leaving, and flipping it. These are people from this community for generations, and they don't give a shit about nobody who they're leaving behind. All right? So, your house, Mr. D'Alessandro, that I bought, you should look at it now. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And to tell you the truth, if you were to look at your old house that I bought and to think it wouldn't be worth anything, that's a heartbreak in itself. A heartbreak in itself, because I like Judith Drive. I like my community, you know? And this is a travesty putting something like this up here, and I'm all for the moratorium going in, all for it, because I've seen the operations of a Copart, and like I said, it's a shit house. They lie, and I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm gonna tell you another inside thing. When they had the firehouse, the first meeting, and I spoke, and everybody was kind of rowdy, and everybody, that was the first thing getting off, you know, a couple of months ago. When I got up, I got up to speak several times, and I made some points of interest with scrap yards, because I've been involved in the business for a very long time. One of the representatives from Copart, 3 separate times, very quietly came over to me and says, "Could I talk to you after the meeting? Could I talk to you after the meeting?" 3 separate times. We spoke. And he says, "Oh, you know the drill." I says, "Oh, with this?" I says, "Yeah, I do." I says, "Are you going to concrete the yard?" I asked him. He says, "No." I says, "I know why, because it'll cost you too much." I says to him, "Are you going to put a rubber membrane down? Because in order to do that, you got to dig up all the dirt, which is very expensive to do, 155 acres of it. You got to put a rubber membrane down to prevent it going through any oil or antifreeze or etc. going through that to penetrate into the aquifer, okay? Then you got to put the proper materials on top of it, and then you should put like 18 inches of concrete, all right? That's the right way of doing it. That's the expensive way of doing it. And I was told, we're not gonna concrete this. And I already knew that because my friend, Mr. Serpico, that owns one of the biggest scrap yards in Brooklyn, told me the process, how it's done, what needs to be done, because he had a problem with DEC. They took him out in cuffs. He went to jail, okay? And that was just DEC. So you're gonna have a major DEC problem here, a DEP problem here. You're gonna have an environmental problem here. You're gonna have a whole host of problems here. Stormville will turn into a shit house, in my opinion. And that's the bottom line. Sorry about the, sorry about the language, but I care about my community, and I'm being real. I'm just being real. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you for speaking. Can you please watch your language? We're in a public venue. Please use appropriate language. That's all I ask. Thank you.
So I'm going to beg your indulgence, please. I stopped what I had to say because I want to follow what the board wants us to do, but I feel the need to respond to the gentleman here since he specifically is talking about moving forward with the business of Copart. And it's very brief. So most of us here were not invited to attend the informational meeting by Copart, but many came anyway. We were told it was a meeting to clear up misinformation regarding the proposed Stormville Airport project, yet they fed us so much misinformation, from claiming that all environmentally unsafe fluids are released at the accident site, to telling us that FM 186 prevents those environmentally unsafe fluids from contaminating the ground on the site. There's a little problem right there. And one of the guys even had the audacity to say about any leakage on the roads to or from the property, quote, "We don't care, it's not our problem." I took 2 trips to the road on which their facility is located in Marlboro. The pictures displayed, which I don't have a place to display them, but I have copies I'll give you folks, show an accurate depiction of the activity outside the sites. There are trucks idling on the street, which they said doesn't happen. There are trucks idling in their parking lot, which they say doesn't happen. There are multiple forklifts in constant motion with their beeping noise going back and forth as they pick up the cars and move them around. And judging by my observations, the frequency of this traffic is at an incredibly higher rate than they have indicated at the informational and planning board meetings. At the planning board meeting of March 20th, 2018, Tom Smith, the Copart representative, said there's potentially 35 to 40 sales per day. At the informational meeting on August 14th, 2018, the transportation experts said 500 sales per week, or an average of 100 a day. In both of my observational trips, based on Copart's estimation of an average of East Fishkill project being 2.5 times larger, we could be looking at 40 to 50 trucks per hour. Many carry multiple cars. I've seen carriers that have 9 on a time. I've seen flatbeds that have 1 on the flatbed, towing another one, I'm sorry. So if we say half these trucks are arriving and half are sales, we're still looking at a potentially 198 trucks leaving per day, many with multiple vehicles. Clearly, the proposed location is inappropriate for their business model. Our roads, our air, our neighbors' water, our neighbors' property values will ultimately become the township's financial responsibility for dealing with the problems they bring with them. Thank you.
I've been drawn to this meeting because of I'm very proud of this government. This government, it's humanity, it's humanist insight, and it's bigger than like putting rubber membranes and stuff like that. It's living. My wife and I live 2277 Route 52, the old Schluter farmhouse. And we've been there since '93. And we have 50 or 60 trucks going by a day. Some I named, like Big Bertha and Moby Dick. You know, I mean, I took a little video of it. Now I can't go out. We have 5 acres, but I can't go out in the yard. I can't work on the house in the day, you know, and it's day and night. And then they come peeling out of Schluter Drive to try to get on the road. And it's just a very humanist thing because it's always money and property. But I've done a recon, you know, I see areas, you see where my wife has lost a lot of her hearing from this. I did research on it, and the OSHA and NEOSH and federal regulations, say this is way over the top because it has to do with 80 to 120 decibels, shock wave, and frequency. And, you know, so she's lost that. And it's like a full court press. It's corporations, transnational corporations. I see Global Foundries, Germany, Uber, Germany, Royal Properties, Manchester, England, De Groot, Holland, and we're really suffering over there. We have an autistic son who's lived with us. You know, he's 29 now. He just sits, you know, on the couch and watches TV. And even materials. Now, my wife would like to retire. She works in Arlington School District Special Ed. I'm a professional plaster and stucco installer, and I was also in District Council 9 Union painting, and I actually was a painter, showing in galleries in New York when I was young. But I'm very happy I had the trade. But I can't even get anything. I mean, it's like materials are like 180, 200%. I mean, there's so many different angles of us not being able to keep up our house. I can't stand out in the yard. A metal track, I mean, it's like $1 a piece. A 10-pack should be $25. They want $50. I just didn't buy it. We found a few nice places. I love the metal yard if I need a piece of metal or something. I love Habitat for Humanity. We finally could get a piece of furniture instead of a heavy slab of formaldehyde with, sawdust in it. And, they're going like 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. And the sound of, for sales, corporations must have decided, because I remember cars, and I have a 68 Chevy Corvair, which got really dissed. It's an air-cooled rear engine, just like the Karmann Ghia. And they must have done something with the mufflers, because every car, in the new cars, they have this tone. I mean, and then the 18-wheelers, they come flying down 52, and then they got a downshift, I mean, it's just crushing. It's like Pottersville. It isn't, and it isn't about, they would just roll over us. I mean, Nigeria sued Coca-Cola for sending 3/4 cans of soda. I mean, imagine, and the yogurt gets tinier and tinier. I go to the India store so I can get 5 pounds of yogurt for $5, and it's just, there's no limit. There's actually no limit to it, and the feeling of life, it just, we're very sad, and it's very downgrading to everyone's, and it's a really spiritual, forward-seeing bunch of guys. When I read moratorium, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And it isn't property. It's land. It's earth. It's, this place was an old farm. I got an old tiller sitting there from old Herman Schluter, whose horse and buggy used to get hit by a car every time they come out on Route 52. And, we got a plow. There's several things, all kinds of crazy artifacts. Anyway, I want to thank you, and I didn't have one of those.
My name is Nancy Foster. I live at 119. Can I do it after? Okay. 119 Creamery Road. I'm in the Hopewell Precision Superfund site, and I support the moratorium 100%. Please don't do this. Haven't we learned from past Superfund sites? Once you've polluted the water, it takes millions and millions of dollars. It takes somebody like Deborah Hall working full-time with Washington to get us designated as a Superfund site. 15 years later, we're finally getting water. And I understand not being able to retire. My husband and I have considered selling, but we couldn't because our property values were so low. So I support everybody who lives in Stormville, because your property values will go up. So thank you so much for trying to preserve whatever pristine, bucolic East Fishkill still exists. Thank you.
I hope that's because they like me. I don't know. Maria Mahoney, 16 Moonlight Drive, Stormville. I live across the street from the entrance of the Stormville Flea Market Airport. So I have a very personal investment in this meeting, and I'd like to stick to your agenda, and I know that we need to speak about the moratorium. So while I sympathize with the owners, I wouldn't want someone telling me whether I could sell my property. I'm in the majority of people who will also be negatively impacted if this zoning doesn't change. The zoning moratorium is just prudent for a growing, changing town. It's been changing for 25, 30 years since, you've said 50 years since they've done the original zoning. I believe that the moratorium is not only justified, but would be necessary for both the owner to pursue other businesses that would fit future zonings. I personally have been actively seeking other businesses who might be interested in the property. I have been making phone calls and emails and texts to other places to try to buy this property. I helped spearhead a movement to try to develop a solar farm on the property, which is an ideal location for cheap, clean energy. So, as you can tell, I believe the moratorium is necessary, and I believe it would give the owner an opportunity to find an alternative buyer. Thank you.
I don't exactly know how I'll follow that, but I am a Beekman resident. I'm not an East Fishkill resident, and I realize that this is an East Fishkill forum. I want to thank my townspeople for being here from my town hall. I am begging you, as a mom, as a parent, as someone that has lived in Dutchess County since 1995, to support this moratorium. I realize it's on the edge of the East Fishkill border, but it's in a lot of our backyards here, and it's heartfelt that you do this moratorium and this not happen. Everyone's entitled to make money and get a piece of the pie and retire and live well, but there comes a point where the environment and people suffer. And please, just consider it, not only for your town, but for my town. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other speakers? If not, I'd like the town board to discuss. One more, okay?
Good evening, everyone, gentlemen, everyone. My name is Adele Rovello. I live at 85 Gold Road, Stormville. We found this property 18 years ago. We built a home. We worked hard for it. My grandchildren grew up there. They're still there. I have neighbors next door to us, Paul and Marion, phenomenal people. The block is wonderful. And I have a very special neighbors that have two little children that I hear giggling and laughing and playing, and they're with their father and they're happy and they're healthy. That's the whole thing, and they're healthy. I say to you, you know, I'm 74 years old. I've been around long enough to know that sometimes when we do this, it's a done deal already, and I hope this isn't the case, because these people here, we are the people. We're in government. We elect people. We are here. And we elect people to help us keep our quality of life in our communities. And I really say, and this, we ask you to please work for us. I don't care how much money they're going to make. They've made a fortune in the years that they've had the flea market, and I hope they have a happy life. But we deserve a happy life too, without any kind of pollution. That's what we're here for. Now, this is what I say to you. I'm leaving it in your hands because there's nowhere else to leave it. Work for the people. That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Dina Porteous. I'm her daughter, and we live at 85 Gold Road. And yes, we are a community, and I do understand about the retirement. As the woman before me mentioned, let's band together as a community, and I had thought it's coming up earlier, and I wish I would have, but I don't have to, but find an alternate buyer. Do the best you can to try and do that. I mean, retirement, my mother said we all want to retire, and I understand their perspective, but when I sit there and I'm told this is a sales and a storage facility, we're not talking about a Honda dealership, we're talking about a car junkyard with all the pollutions. So that's really just ate at me, but let's try and get together like she had said earlier and find an alternate buyer. Really band together. Look how big this has become. Look at all the people here. Let's band together and try to make that happen. Help a situation, right? There you go.
Good evening. I'm in favor of the moratorium. I'm Harris Jones, and originally from New Hampshire. It's a beautiful state up there. We came here in 1977, and when we came into looking for a home, we found East Fishkill, and we thought the vision of this town was the place we wanted to live. At the time, I lived on rural Route 2, Stormville. The route grew, and my house number changed a few times. The house never moved. I'm at 102 Brothers Road, Stormville now. And the moratorium should not be just about Copart, although I do have a certain opinion. The moratorium should be about the vision of the community. And let's face it, it has to be an organic zoning. Make sure that all the time what we have written on the piece of paper fits the vision we have of our town. And hopefully this moratorium will help us go in that direction. Thank you.
Okay. One more.
Good evening. I just want to clear the record. First of all, my name is Robert Grasso. Other people call me Bobby Grasso. I am not Bobby Bravo, who someone put my picture on Facebook making a comment about Copart, saying that I am in favor of what's going on. So I don't need any targets on me. I want to clear the air. I have no position on this whatsoever, and I am not the person on, I believe it was on East Fishkill Facebook, where they, again, used my picture with the name of Bobby Bravo, saying that I said that this would be good for the community. And while I feel flattered that somebody wants to use me, I think that they should be man enough or woman enough to say what they want to say with their face and their name. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The town board is now, okay, I think this could be the last speaker. I think we know the sentiments unless there's other dissenting opinions. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's Randy Wacker. I'm a 52-year resident of East Fishkill. I graduated from this high school. My wife graduated from this high school. My daughter should have graduated from the high school, went to college early. I bring up my daughter because she's 5th generation East Fishkill. Our families have been here a very, very long time. I've watched East Fishkill change over the years. Some of it good, some of it bad. Our neighbor here that used to be IBM, they did a reasonable job. Town kept them in check the best they could. These people are proposing, and you're talking about change. I'm going to your moratorium, trying to speak about that. It's an absolute great idea. Shut it down for 9 months, get a whole lot more cool heads thinking about this thing. And look at, if you're talking about rezoning property so that they can do this, that's insane. You're going, because this is not allowed. An auto wrecking yard, this kind of business is not allowed in what it's zoned currently, right? Shake your head, yes or no, please. Somebody? Yeah. Right. Okay? So, to change that is crazy. I tried to do a business in this town about 15 years ago, and I tried to change the zoning for sports, outdoor sports, and I wasn't allowed to. And one of the main reasons is because I wasn't a national company who's going to walk in here with lawyers with millions of dollars backing them. If I had a couple $100,000 to spend, I could have got my project through too. Don't let that happen. That's all you guys. These people are all going to vote. You guys want to keep your jobs, don't screw this up. All right? I'm going to make this, I'm the last speaker. I'm going to make this short and sweet. I will address Copart, all right? And a few short years ago, I worked for an auto transporter. I've hauled to almost every Copart facility in the Northeast. I've hauled to 4 out of 5 in New York State. Every single one of those yards is a disaster area. All right? When you pick up these cars, what I drove was a 4-car auto transporter. 1 on the roof, 2 on the deck, 1 on the back. Trust me, we were gentle with the cars. I saw guys that just unhooked the cars and lifted the decks. And the cars would come slamming on the ground. They don't care that the oil pans rip out. And these are in Copart facilities. Nobody says a damn thing. You just leave. And what's rolling off those trucks? I've been there, I've seen it. Couldn't tell you how many bags of Drysdale I put on trucks, because when you go through DOT, they're going to nail you. That's the only time those trucks are clean, is when they go through DOT. And the biggest violator, you ask any, call the state police, call the DOT, ask them who's the biggest violators in the commercial truck industry. It's the auto transporters. Go to the bridge, watch the cops pull them off the road. When I drove them, I'd get stopped 3 and 4 times. I basically could not, I never got flagged through a DOT stop. They'd say, over there, pull it over. And they just hand these guys tickets after tickets after tickets. Some of them, I don't know how they stay in business paying those fines. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking at an environmental nightmare. Keep your jobs, guys.
Okay. Michael, after this speaker, the town board is going to then give their comments.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Max DeRigi. I live in Stormville, 122 Devon Farms Road. And so my father lived in Putnam Valley, which is an area very near to here. And my mother is from Newfoundland, Canada. And I was born in Ormond Beach, Florida. And amongst my family, we all agree that there's no area as beautiful as Dutchess County. And I've lived in Stormville since I was in 3rd grade. And now that I'm driving to school as a senior here at John Jay High School, there's nothing that I find as pleasing as taking a beautiful drive through a beautiful neighborhood where I live And there's always a section of the road during my drive home that I make sure to have the window down and the radio off, because both the smell and the sounds are just too beautiful to comprehend. And as a John Jay patriot and as a resident of Dutchess County, I have immense pride in my town, and I think that I think I speak for the majority of the youth here, that we all want to preserve the beauty of our town. And and it's very encouraging, because I've been looking around while I've been listening to everybody speak, and I see neighbors, teachers, mentors, friends, peers, and it's very encouraging to see everyone gather to support the moratorium that I think is very important to, as I've said before, preserve the beauty that you just really can't find anywhere else. And so I'd like to thank you for supporting this moratorium, all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
Okay, so thank you everybody for your comments. Now what we'll do is I will read the resolution, get a motion and a second, then the town board will do, we'll have discussion. Yes.
Sorry. Just want to clarify, I think the comments made by site-specific issue, even though we're here for a moratorium, kind of highlight the concerns of industrial districts and the need to reevaluate the same. And I want to address the hardship question for the board, so you have it on the record. It's always, in a moratorium, the issue is if not now, when? And whenever you impose one, you have to evaluate property rights and applicants' rights. In this particular moratorium, you have a hardship provision which allows for already developed sites, if they're going to need to expand or change, they can go to the zoning board to apply for a hardship. In looking at all of the planning board records, this application for Copart, just to talk about vested rights, is an application whose file has not yet been determined to be complete. There was a question raised by the planning board that would require a referral to the zoning board for an interpretation as to whether or not it was a permitted use. There's no wetlands mapping, traffic reports. So in evaluating as to whether or not we would recommend to this board to grant any other grandfathering or hardship provisions, those are the factors that we considered. So in absence of any other applications, we think that the hardship provision in this ordinance is satisfactory to meet the law. Additionally, a moratorium tool is to be used very sparingly by the board. So the East Fishkill has not had a moratorium in 11 years. The last one was in '06. And so it is done very sparingly. The duration of 9 months has been reviewed and deemed to be hopefully fully sufficient to get the analysis done, a review done, and to again have the public discussion as to what changes, if any, should be made. So I just wanted to get those points made because there was perhaps some confusion about the hardship provision, and I wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Wood. Resolution 2018, whereas the town board is considering a local law establishing a moratorium with respect to industrial zones not directly abutting Interstate I-84, and that such law is exempt from secret process, and be it further resolved that the town board does hereby adopt local law 3 of 2018 establishing a moratorium with respect to industrial zones not directly abutting Interstate I-84. This local law shall take effect immediately upon its filing with the Secretary of State of the State of New York. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, discussion. Anybody, board members, like to discuss?
I have a question. I have a question for the town lawyers. So you said that we have to, within the 9 months that we have the time of the moratorium, we have to kind of address these issues somehow. Is this the town, we need to do this, or should an agency, a third agency come in and review this situation?
Well, I can address that, Councilman. In the local law establishing the moratorium, it shows that that the staff directive, Section 3, the town planning and engineering staff shall develop and purpose the town board a plan to evaluate and remap and revise all industrial districts affected by this moratorium. And then Section 4 evaluation that the supervisor will recommend a planning consultant to the town board within 45 days to assist with the evaluation of the industrial zone district. If that answers your question, if not, the attorney can.
Yeah, that's
Okay. So we would extensively look to, I will look to my professionals, our planner and our town engineer and planning board to see who and when we can enter into an agreement with a consultant to review the industrial zones and then proceed with our investigation or what we desire to do with that. Any other board members wish to speak?
Is it going to be an RFP? You're going to have to bid that?
No, there's professional services. We don't have to do that.
So we'll certainly get several firms to interview with the board.
Okay. Councilman?
So one of the reoccurring themes I heard tonight from the comments is the concept of change. The town is changing, and it's inevitable. Many of us could remember what the town looked like 5, 10, 20, even longer, many years ago. A lot of times change cannot be stopped, but it can be controlled. And I would like to commend the board for looking into this issue and for attempting to control the change that's happening in our town to ensure that it's right for all the residents of East Fishkill and for protecting our town as well.
Thank you, Councilman.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. It is truly amazing to see everybody come out in the community and voice your concern. Thank you for the emails and the phone calls and all the other messages. I'm in full support of this moratorium. I really believe it's time that we pump the brakes on our I-zones, and we have to take a hard look. And I think Councilman Beepen said it perfectly, and also I believe Mrs. Mahoney said it perfectly when she said it's prudent in a growing and changing town. And I think it's time that we impose this moratorium.
The board has also reviewed, there's letters from the Town of East Fishkill Planning Board and the Department of Planning and Development of Dutchess County. You all have received that and reviewed that, correct? Mm-hmm. Their recommendations are in support of the town's desire to reevaluate the industrial districts of the town. Just wanted to put that into the record also. Councilman, do you have anything else?
Nope. Good.
No? Anybody else?
The only comment that I would like to make is that I am really pleased to see the community responding, and this is the way government works. I said it before. Thank to all the concerned citizens that they came up and they expressed their opinions. Every opinion is taken into consideration. And I remember a few years ago when I got elected, I actually approached the previous town supervisor and mentioned that from time to time the town map needs to be revisited, and these are some of the reasons why as times change, we need to change with the times. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, this is our job, and we will move forward if everybody votes on it. So with that, we have a motion in a second? You want to call the roll, clerk?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Aye.
Councilperson Franco?
Aye.
Councilperson Marinaro?
Aye.
Councilperson Beacon?
Aye.
Supervisor D'Alessandro?
Aye. Thank you. Motion approved. Thank you all. Thank you again for coming out for that public hearing. We're going to take a 10-minute break before we continue the rest of our meeting.
Which one's? Hey, Franco.
Ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go.
Move it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Everybody has received the August 30th, 2018 minutes. Any altercations, additions, clerk?
No, there is not.
Nothing? Do I have a motion to accept the August 30th, 2018 minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. We have one addition to the agenda tonight, and that is to schedule a public hearing with respect to the town-wide water improvement area increase of improvements. So we will do that at the end. And with that, it is courtesy of the floor. Anyone who wishes to come up and speak on any general town issues or anything on the agenda, please come forward now to speak. The podium is over here to your right, my left.
Don't let him.
Okay, with that, now do I, sorry, go ahead, Val.
Johnny Bravo.
What happened here? So, I think that we have a problem with the East Fishkill 22 channel, and I just, if I could, urge the people maybe to call up Cablevision and complain to them about whatever their issue might be, the volume, the clarity of the programming. I think that if they get some calls, they might do something about it. And I know it's not on the end of the videographer. It's once it passes him. He does a great job, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Grasso. Yes, we have been getting a lot of calls about the volume on channel 22. Half the town gets the volume no problem, and half the town has to turn up the volume to the maximum. So the videographer, he has done a little inspecting on this and made some investigating on this, and it is on the Cablevision end. So it would help, like Mr. Grasso said, if you could call to complain to Cablevision about that, because we have no other, there's nothing else that we can do. So thank you, Mr. Grasso. Okay, with that, anybody else wish to speak on any agenda items or anything else? No? Okay. So with that also, everybody received, I want a receipt and file. I have a letter from Dutchess County, from the county executive's office. I'd like to read it. Dear Supervisor D'Alessandro, I am pleased to inform you that your municipality has been awarded $40,000 through the 2018 Municipal Innovation Grants Program for the following project: Red Wing Park Bathhouse Accessibility Improvements. The program year will run from October 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2020. We expect completion of the project within these 18 months. Please remember, this is a reimbursement program. We will contact you to begin the contract process in the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much to Dutchess County. This was all spurred. We started the Think Differently Day at the Beach. We went off of Dutchess County's Think Differently initiative, and it's been a huge success. We had our second annual this past July, and we had many people of all different abilities come to our beach, use our facilities, but one thing that is lacking is our restrooms there. So we did apply for the Municipal Innovation Grant, and we have been approved, but that is not nearly enough. I have discussed this with our rec department and also our engineering staff, which is they're going to help us maybe apply for a couple other grants that can aid us in using this grant, plus if we could possibly get another grant. And with that, because the cost of the project probably is somewhere in the $150,000 neighborhood to improve, renovate those bathrooms and make it handicap accessible. So it's important that we can get that, and I'm thankful to Dutchess County that we did receive this grant, and I'll keep the board up to date as to the progress we have on attaining another grant and changing the scope of work on this grant. So thank you, Dutchess County. We have a second public hearing tonight. It's an adjournment. The Hopewell West Water District. Do I have a motion to reopen the public hearing for Hopewell West Water District?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Public hearing's now opened. So last month, we discussed the Hopewell West Water District, and we were at the point for source. Now, everybody has received the amendment, the first amendment to the map plan and report. And in the summary, would the engineer like to give us a summary on what our next step is?
Well, maybe I'll just read for the public, what the board has in front of them. The town previously considered map plan report for the formation of the Hopewell West Water District. Since that date, developments at the Fishkill Plains Water Plant may make it feasible for Fishkill Plains to supply water to Hopewell West as an alternate source. Rehabilitation of the 2 existing wells and connection of a 3rd well may be able to supply enough additional water to supply the new water district. The town is awaiting the results of the required 72-hour pump test on wells 1 and 2 before making the final determination. If Fishkill Plains can supply the water to Hopewell West, it should result in a savings of approximately $150,000 to the acquisition and improvement cost of forming the Hopewell West Water District. This savings will remain in a project contingency fund to fund any unanticipated project expenses. If that contingency is not used, the funds will be used to replace more piping within Worley Homes. There will be no increase in the estimated annual user cost or delay in providing water if the decision is made to switch to the alternate source. Attached is a breakdown of costs associated with the connection to the alternate source, which would be Fishkill Plains.
So, engineer, just to clarify, we're going to see after the 72-hour pump test gives us our results, then we will decide on the source.
Yes.
And also, not only will this aid us for the source for our Hopewell West Water District, which is Worley Homes, but also Revere Park.
Yes.
Okay, so many people have asked me. I ran into a lady today in the supermarket, and she grabbed my arm and said, "When am I having water in Revere Park, when it's going to be improved?" And I told her that we're still waiting on the source, with that we're doing the 72-hour pump test. So I'd like everybody to know that this will also affect Fishkill Plains, Revere Park, and Worley Homes. So we should be able to vote on that next month?
Yes.
Okay. Does the board have any comments or questions? None? Okay.
When we say about also water at Fishkill Plains, that will be the existing system, the way we had it before we actually rehabilitated the wells, correct? That will be mostly the area where Dogwood Knolls is concerned, correct?
Yeah, Fishkill Plains currently is Fishkill Plains, Breadview, and Breadview 2. We're talking about that existing facility that had 2 wells. We drilled a 3rd well a few years ago. It was determined to be Guidi. We did move forward with a filtration project because the cost was way above the budget, and there was a great risk associated with moving forward at that time because we didn't know how wells 1 and 2 were going to pan out. Since that time, we got to a point where it became an emergency. We had to rehab 1 and 2. The preliminary results are much better than what was anticipated by the hydrogeologist, and I think we're confident enough to move forward with the 72-hour test, and we believe that we'll be able to get enough water to warrant putting the filtration in, getting well 3 online, and making Fishkill Plains, a substantial water source within the town.
So, Scott, just to clarify, I know that we probably mentioned this to the community before. I have been having some constituents from Dogwood Knolls reach out to me in the past. Their concerns were about the cost that they advanced in the filtration and the wells, and their concerns were, is that cost, and how is that cost going to be shared with the new communities that are going to be benefiting from the wells? Do you mind saying a few things about that?
Right. So in this cost breakdown, I've apportioned which district is paying what share of the anticipated cost. This particular report is for Hopewell West, We are going to be amending the townwide improvement area report that we're going to be discussing a little bit later in this agenda, and those costs will be broke out at that time at the public hearing for that other report.
Yeah, that public hearing will be set for next month, Councilman. And also, not only next month we have the public hearing for the budget and the workshop, we were going to do discussion there on the budget, but we can also do discussion on the water districts also, townwide, because it's getting to be very large and very confusing. We have to front all the money for the Hopewell North Water District that the EPA is putting in the line for. So that is what the last resolution is for tonight, to set the public hearing to extend the funds for that. That's becoming a little bit problematic because we have to lay out all the money before the EPA gives us back the money. So we should have a general discussion on all water districts also for our October workshop. Any other comments on the Hopewell West public hearing? Anybody in the audience wish to speak again on the Hopewell West Water District? Okay, with that, let's, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed, and we will vote next month on the formation of the district. Thank you. Okay, resolutions. First resolution to award winter bids for highway already. It's coming quick. Councilman, Deputy Supervisor, could you read that?
Whereas under the highway law, the highway superintendent is allowed to utilize private contractors to assist him in the clearing of roads during winter storms. And whereas on a 2-year basis, the town solicits bids for contractors to assist the highway superintendent, and bids have been received by the town clerk and are summarized on the attached schedule. Whereas the 2 town snowplow bids were submitted with minor inconsistencies, the highway superintendent is asking the board to accept these 2 bids along with all the other bids. And now therefore be resolved that the town board does hereby accept and approve the highlighted bids in the attached schedule for the contractors listed therein.
Thank you. Councilman, do I have a motion to authorize the snow plow and winter bids?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Go ahead. Yes?
Somebody was speaking?
No, go ahead.
So today I kind of briefly spoke with the highway superintendent regarding certain type of snowplows, and I specifically asked, I know that he mentioned in the past that now we use a lot more town trucks with the wings. He kind of told me that he has at least 14 trucks with the wings that the town is going to operate. So briefly, one question is, do we foresee that possibly more of these type of trucks could be used in the future? Because there are few contracts that we sub out that I see the hourly rates are quite high compared. Do you foresee any savings if we do use any additional town equipment with wings compared to what we spend now?
We do have 14 trucks with wings now. We also purchased the Mack from LaGrange, which also has a wing, so that's 15. And we eliminated our small pickups this year. We're not using any single wheel pickups, so no small trucks, just dual wheel trucks.
So Councilman, also, which we are starting to enter into some negotiations with Dutchess County, they are kind of requesting us to plow some of their county roads. So those are large roads that we should have some trucks, whether it's our trucks to plow them, I'd rather, because Dutchess County will only give us a certain amount of dollars per mile, and we would, I would rather have our people do that since it's a cheaper cost. But we will then need to use some of these other subs for different routes, possibly. But we're waiting still for Dutchess County to send that list and finalize what we have to do. We haven't really, they're a little behind with that, and I had the engineer reach out to the Commissioner of Public Works for Dutchess County, and he sent the list over this week, so we're going to start reviewing it this week coming. Any other comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, number 2, acknowledge the receipt of the town budget. As required by New York State law, the town supervisor has filed with the town clerk his tentative budget, and by law, the town board must receive and acknowledge receipt of the budget within 5 days of its filing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board does hereby acknowledge the receipt of 2019 tentative budget as filed by the town supervisor with the town clerk in accordance with law, and that the public hearing for said budget will be October 25th, 2018. I submitted the budget today to the town clerk, my first one, and everybody here has a copy of it. And we are setting the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 3, set November town, Councilman Beepan, would you read that?
Whereas due to conflicting schedules, the supervisor is requesting to change the November 8th, 2018 meeting to November 15th, 2018, and therefore now be it resolved that the town board shall set the November 15th, 2018 meeting as it is regularly scheduled meeting, and be it further resolved that the town clerk shall duly advertise said meeting date change.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to change the November town board meeting to November 15th?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. We only have one meeting in November. The 4th Thursday of the month is Thanksgiving. So we have a combined workshop and voting meeting on November 15th. Any other discussion?
Be less attendance if we do it on Thanksgiving.
Why? Do you have something to do? He's got something to do?
Huh? We should have held that public hearing on that.
Yes.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you.
Do the town budget that night. We all set?
Yeah, that'd be great. Number 4, hire for the highway department. Councilman Cassidy, would you read that?
Whereas the highway superintendent is requesting to hire Brian Higgs as a full-time MEO for the highway, and whereas the highway superintendent has submitted the memo to the town board, now be it therefore that the town hired Brian Higgs as a full-time MEO, and Brian will be paid $20.98 per hour.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to acknowledge full-time hiring by the highway superintendent?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Higgs has gone through all our new health prerequisites, so he passed everything, and the highway superintendent wishes to hire, and we have a position available. Any other discussion? No? Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 5, appoint member to the Rec Board, Councilman Franco.
Whereas the Recreation Advisory Board has a vacancy, and whereas the chairperson has recommended the appointment of Christy Horos be made to the board, now therefore be it resolved that Christy Horos be and hereby is appointed as member of the Recreation Advisory Board, whose term will end on April 28th, 2021.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to appoint a new member to the Rec Advisory Board?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Appointment? I'm sorry, appointment. Discussion? Ms. Horos came to be interviewed by the town board 2 weeks ago at our workshop when we had it at the fire district headquarters. Thank you for coming there, Ms. Horos. And I don't think anybody had any problems at that time. Anybody have any comments? No, Councilman?
Good addition.
Okay. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 6, authorize acceptance of certain roads. Councilman Cassidy. You're hot tonight.
God, this is a long one, too. Whereas the planning board previously had approved the Hope Roads in Hopewell Glen subdivision, whereas the contractors building the same have indicated that portions of these roads, named as Tilden Place, Seward Place, and the Hopewell Glen subdivision, Phase 2, Marcy Lane and Tompkins Lane in the Hopewell Glen subdivision, Phase 5 are now available for dedication. Whereas it is the desire of the town board to accept these roads, Tilden, Seward in Phase 2, Marcy Lane and Tompkins Lane in Phase 5, as public highways in the Hopewell Glen subdivision. Now therefore be resolved that these roads are hereby accepted as public highways. Be it further resolved that a maintenance bond shall be posted by the developer in the amount of $373,300 for Phase 2, and a maintenance bond posted for $290,200 for Phase 5 to ensure the work is satisfactory during that guarantee period.
Okay, yes, I'll make the change. Thank you, Councilman. The highway superintendent and the town engineer has reviewed this, and they are in favor of accepting the roads, correct? Yes, I'll call for that adjustment. Do I have a motion to accept the Hopewell Glen subdivision with one adjustment for the maintenance bond? There is a change of the amount for both bonds. The $373,300 to be changed to $374,140, and for the other maintenance bond, instead of $290,200 to $291,100.
I would just like to add, if I could, there is a small punch list that they are going to be taken care of, but it wasn't substantial enough to hold up the dedication.
Yeah, we have submitted that punch list from Toll Brothers, and
So that punch list is done, or going to be done before we?
Going to be done.
Before we take the road?
It's going to be done, yes.
That's why we have the maintenance bond in place.
Right, we do have a maintenance bond in place.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the Hopewell Glen subdivision roads with the modifications to the bonds that I said?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Another plow route. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 7, appoint police personnel. Councilman Marinaro, would you read that?
Whereas the town police chief has interviewed one candidate eligible from the civil service list for appointment as a full-time police officer in the town of East Fishkill. And whereas the chief has also interviewed 2 candidates to appoint as part-time police assistants. And whereas the town board has interviewed the candidates recommended by the town police chief, and now therefore be it resolved that Stephen Costello be hired in accordance with the existing collective bargaining agreement at an annual salary of $45,118, and is hereby appointed to the position of police officers for the town of East Fishkill. And now therefore be it resolved that Andrew Magnotta and Dylan Sala be hired under the SCA agreement at level 4 at a rate of $15.72 per hour, and are hereby appointed as police assistants in the police department.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to appoint the police personnel?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. We did interview all 3 of the candidates at our last workshop meeting at the Fire District Headquarters. Thank you all for coming, and actually all 3 are here in attendance tonight. Thank you for attending. Mr. Magnotta, Mr. Sala, Mr. Costello. Any other discussion? No? Okay. With that, do I have a motion and a second? All in favor say aye. Say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, gentlemen. The chief has the badge for the new officer, Mr. Costello. Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
It's always nice to see a smile out of the police chief from time to time.
Yeah, the police chief likes to smile every now and then, right, Councilman? And thank you, Officer Costello. Good luck. You'll make us proud.
Stay safe.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, number 8, we have authorized East Fishkill Court to apply for Court Justice Assistant Program. Oh, very important. Councilman Bepan, would you read that?
Whereas the town of East Fishkill Court is seeking funding for improvements to the court amenities, and whereas the town of East Fishkill Court is eligible to apply for funding through the Justice Court Assistance Program for improvements to the court amenities, and now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorizing the town justice court to submit a grant application to the Justice Court Assistance Program for improvements to the court amenities.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize the Justice Department to apply for a grant?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Well, this is a nice grant, the JCAP grant. We have put in several different things, a new visual system for the courtroom, and a new conference table for the prosecutor, and some other visual aid or hearing aid for people in the audience in the courtroom. So this will be great if we could get that. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 9, appointed temporary typist. Councilman Marinaro, would you read that?
Whereas the town is in need from time to time of temporary employees, commonly referred to as floaters, to assist in the clerical function necessary to operate town departments. And whereas the town supervisor has interviewed several applicants and recommends Nancy C. Yarkimo and Mary Gerlin to the town board, and now therefore be it resolved that the applicants are hereby appointed as temporary part-time typists in the town, being paid at an hourly rate of $13.83, and be it further resolved that said typists shall work at the pleasure of the town supervisor in accordance with all previously established rules and regulations.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to appoint Town Hall temporary part-time typists? Do I have a second? Discussion? So our town clerk and my secretary did interview both candidates, and it just comes time to time that we need floaters in different departments. People are out sick, and busier times sometimes some other people aren't available, so it's good to have people on the bench, say. So any other discussion? No, with that, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Number 10, declare certain property surplus. Councilman Franco, would you read it?
Whereas the town police chief has provided the town board with a list of computers and equipment which they deem to be of no further use to the town and thus should be considered surplus. The attached list of items are being requested to be declared surplus material and sold and or disposed of. Whereas the town board has reviewed said list and concurs, and now therefore be it resolved that the certain items that do not contain any confidential materials are hereby declared to be surplus and are to be disposed of by participating in an auction process held by Absolute Auctions and Realty without cost to the town. And be it further resolved that the disposal of items containing confidential materials shall be disposed of in the proper manner.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to declare certain property to be surplus?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Can we use some of this equipment in other places in the town, like town hall or anything like that? Or is it
It's
old?
very outdated equipment.
Is it?
I mean,
All right.
the new police chief is rummaging through everything in the building, I think, and came across a lot of old equipment. I saw for myself, it was in one of the garages. You can take a look if you like.
I'll take the chief's word up for it.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. We have a addition, yes, the scheduled public hearing with respect to the townwide water improvement area. The town board established the townwide water improvement area. Certain modifications have been made requiring additional funding. Town board determines that the town law 209Q water funding would be in the public interest. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board shall conduct a public hearing at its regular meeting of October 25th, 2018, at 7 p.m. to consider increasing the authorized borrowing for the water improvement area to $4,250,000, and that the clerk shall advertise said public hearing. So we will also have not only this public hearing on October 25th, we will have a discussion about the townwide water improvement area at the workshop in October also. So we will have at the workshop discussion for the townwide water improvement area and the budget, and October 25th we'll have the public hearing for the budget and the townwide water improvement area. Okay. Sorry, clerk, I'm sorry. So with that, do I have a motion and a second already?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, with that, that's it for resolutions. Thank you very much. Town board member comments. Any board members wish to make any comments? Go ahead.
So, first of all, I would like to take a moment to thank our community for their numerous representation at the September 15 Community Day event. A special thanks to the organizer, in particular Jenna McHugh, and the staff for their valuable effort in organizing and overseeing the whole event in making sure that everyone was properly accommodated. One of the best Community Days event as far as attendance and sponsorship as far as anyone can remember. I met briefly with Jenna McHugh this morning to summarize and analyze how Community Day went, and we both were very pleased with the overall turnout. She mentioned that many thanks to the benevolent donation from our sponsors, we were able to bring in most money this year than ever did in previous events. Thank you to the sponsors for their generous contribution. Many kids in our community will be very happy for the results. There are many people who participated in making Community Day successful. We wanted to thank all for the great efforts. There is, however, one person that I would like to personally thank for his time and dedication. That is Mr. Richie Nees. Richie is a retired veteran, and when asked to give a hand, he gave it all, and he made a difference. Thank you, Richie. On another note, this past Tuesday, September 25th, I had a meeting with our town assessors. The intent of the meeting was to see if she had any suggestions on how we could stimulate or make it more appealing for anyone, any company, big or small, who would like to open their doors in the town of East Fishkill. My comment to her was that companies like to open their business in areas where their tax incentives are available. Unfortunately, the only thing that she was able to kind of present to me was a property tax exemption, which comes from the state, and it's for property, real property tax for commercial business or industrial real property. Part of that is related to Real Property Law, Section 485-B. Last, I personally like to thank our local volunteer fire department, our police department, and the Dutchess County Sheriff Department for their participation in our Community Day. Thank you. As a liaison to the police department, I just have a couple of things that I just want to read. On September 13th, 2018, at 11:58 p.m., officers were dispatched to residents on Pelham Road for a report of a husband and wife verbal domestic dispute. The responding officers were advised that there was an active order protection in place between the two parties, and the male half of the dispute had fled the area in a red SUV. While en route to the area, the police officer Sean Phillips observed the suspect vehicle on Route 52 traveling eastbound. Officer Phillips was in a marked police vehicle and activated his emergency light and sirens, attempting to pull over the subjects. The vehicle operator failed to comply, and in doing so intentionally struck two marked Town of East Fishkill police vehicles. Officer Phillips and Sergeant Paul Gaston were eventually able to get the vehicle to a stop on Interstate 84 and on the ramp of the Taconic Parkway. At that time, officers encountered Donald L. Curry, age 51, on Mohegan Lake. It was discovered that there was, in fact, an active order of protection in place, prohibiting Mr. Curry from contacting or going to the home of the protected party. Additionally, Mr. Curry appeared intoxicated at the time of the stop. Mr. Curry was taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of attempted assault, second degree, 2 counts of criminal mischief, second degree, 2 counts of reckless endangerment, second degree, reckless driving, criminal attempt in second degree, aggravated driving while intoxicated in numerous vehicle and traffic law infraction. Mr. Curry was processed and later arraigned in the Town of East Fishkill Court by the Honorable Judge Frederick Romick, where he was remanded to the Dutchess County Jail on $50,000 cash bail or $100,000 bond, pending a future court date. Officers on the scene were assisted by members of the New York State Police and Dutchess County Sheriff. Thank you again to the great job of our local police department.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else wish to speak? Councilman?
Sure. As always, I'd like to begin with thanking our emergency services. East Fishkill is very fortunate to have a great fire department, EMS squad, and police department that are always available whenever the community needs them. I'd always like to remind residents that the fire department is always looking for volunteers. Feel free to contact headquarters and they'll direct you to your closest station. I'd also like to thank everyone involved with Community Day. It was nice to see so many people involved. The Recreation Department, Jan, Mrs. Selback, Bill Green, they all did a phenomenal job. And my last note, and it's appropriate because we're at John Jay, I received a couple complaints about the traffic in the mornings entering the parking lot. And many people claim it's because of the recent renovations, but it's a number of factors that contribute to this issue. One, the state has mandated John Jay to close their second entrance, the side gate that they used to use. The school assumes that's for safety concerns, so that pushes more traffic through the main entrance. In addition, the bell schedule had to be adjusted due to state requirements. We had to expand our classes by a few minutes to meet minimum levels. And on top of that, the school would like to remind everyone that we do have a lot of people using our parking lots. So we have just over about 400 spaces here with over 200 staff and faculty, as well as 500 senior class members that are eligible to park on campus should they so choose. On top of that, we have 30 buses and over 200 parents that choose to drop their kids to school in the morning. So there's going to be a lot of traffic coming into the school, as always. So be patient. If you have any direct concerns, contact the administration. They were very helpful when I contacted them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Franco?
Okay. This Sunday, September 30th, Dutchess County is having a very special event. There'll be a parade there, Year of the Veteran. It'll take place 1 p.m. on the corner of Market Street and Cannon Street in Poughkeepsie, and they ask that each town be represented by some veterans. We have 4 very special veterans that will be attending: Jim Reynolds, Bruce Canini, Vincent Richards, and Ronnie Yambas. We had spoken to these gentlemen, and these guys are part of our Veterans Committee, and we're very happy that they're taking part in that event. As for Community Day, again, thanks for everybody who helped out, and we got a lot of great feedback from our veterans tent. There was a great response. Ferg Foley, who was manning it for most of the day, said that The county is looking at East Fishkill again as I guess as a trailblazer. We're the first ones to come up with a veterans committee, and they're going to start asking other towns to be doing the same. So when the county needs to get a hold of veterans and inform them of certain things, each town can sort of, in their own committee, can act as a conduit and reach out to those veterans. The county is also looking to expand another project that we're doing, our Hometown Heroes project. If you notice, more and more keep going up, and we've had a lot of great response to that. And the county is looking to do something similar, so that's still in the process with them.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Supervisor?
Nope, just like to thank everyone for Community Day. It was a long day. A lot of us were up there before 9 o'clock in the morning, and it actually ended about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Thanks to all the groups that showed up and stayed for the day. Special thanks to the ambulance, the fire, the police. It was nice to see the Sheriff's Department there for a change. State Police, I don't know whether they made it. But there was a lot of groups there. Parade was really long, a lot longer. It was so long that my truck died because I let the videographer borrow it. And then he decided to go up and film the other stuff while I was still trying to get my truck out of the road, but that's okay, Mike. I'll forgive you. Thanks. But get your own truck next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Supervisor. I forgot I should have had first the police chief or the highway superintendent speak. Any words you'd like to add?
Well, we finished our line painting on Lake Walton, Robinson Lane, Creamery Road, Miller Hill, Shenandoah. We're continuing our partial paving. We'll be on White Pond Road this week. We finished Eder Road and drainage work on Zerner Boulevard, Queen Anne Lane. So we're keeping busy and continuing to have a pothole crew out there every day.
Great. Thank you. Police Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board, for allowing me to update the community on some ongoing and upcoming events that the police department will be involved in. With the start of the school year, the police department has continued our Too Good for Drugs program. Each year at Gayhead Elementary, Fishkill Plains Elementary, and St. Denis St. Columbus School, police officer Tammy Montagna teaches a 10-week block of instruction to 5th grade students. The Too Good for Drugs program, which is a school-based drug prevention program, is designed to reduce a student's intention not only to use illegal drugs, but alcohol and tobacco as well. The program seeks to build the self-confidence of students so they are better able to make healthy choices and achieve success. The program seeks to develop positive peer norms, appropriate attitudes towards alcohol, tobacco, and illegal drug use. It also seeks to educate the students on the benefits of a drug-free lifestyle while instilling the knowledge of the negative consequences of alcohol, tobacco, and illegal drug use. And Officer Montagna really does a fantastic job with the kids in all 3 schools. On October 3rd, it is National Coffee with a Cop Day. The East Fishkill Police Department will be at the East Fishkill Community Center from 11 to 12, 11 in the morning till 12 at noon, to chat with the community. This is not a speech or any type of specific topic program that we're giving. It's just an informal conversation with the community about what matters to the residents and in particularly the seniors. And we've received such a supportive initial response after our Facebook post that we're looking into having additional dates at additional locations. And finally, due to popular demand, the East Fishkill Police Department will be hosting additional CRAZE, which is the Civilian Response to Active Shooter event, on October 13th, and another Stop the Bleed class on October 20th. Both classes will be held from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and are free to the public. I'd ask anybody interested to contact the police department at 845-221-2111 and ask to speak to Lieutenant John Wood to coordinate attending this training. To date, 75 citizens have attended Stop the Bleed, and 58 citizens have attended the CRAZE instruction. And with that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And Councilman, like you said, trailblazing. East Fishkill, we are trailblazers. Day at the Beach, our Veterans Council, Hometown Heroes, our Economic and Business Revitalization Committee, The county has said time and time again that we are leading the way. No other towns have done as much as we have been doing, and I'm proud of our board for helping me do all these things, so thank you all very much. Something else that Councilman Beepan always says about the fire and EMS, I've been spending a lot more time with these volunteers, and we really need more. And they're a great group. They have a lot of camaraderie. They have a lot of fun. It's really nice to see. So if you're thinking about volunteering, please do so. Go to one of the firehouses. They'll take your application right then and there. And that's about it. Our next town board meeting, our workshop is October 11th. That will be for our budget and for our water conversation for our water districts. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.